in March of 2014 for what we're seeing here and experiencing here tonight. But I knew that I could do well in this riding. I grew up in Hamilton East. I have lots of connections, especially with the diverse groups here. There's so many different cultures represented in them, and I know them all, and I love them all, and I've attended so many functions, so it was a natural fit for me. And although we felt momentum all the way through, when Justin Trudeau started to take off, I didn't say it to anybody except my wife, but I knew that we were going to be very successful. If we were going to lose, it was going to be by a margin, but one big. And that's honestly the feeling that I had all the way through. So it's a great night for Hamilton, because Hamilton is now represented as a voice, two voices, in the federal government of Canada. And that's been a long time since that occurred. And that's important for a lot of reasons. For our infrastructure deficit, because we spend $80 million a year, we need to spend $195 million a year as a city. We can't afford it. But the infrastructure plan is going to help us. Also, our Stelco and U.S. Steel pensioners and workers who are in such a crisis now, they have a voice in the federal government, and we're going to do everything we can to make that situation right.
How big a deal was the Justin Trudeau wave and this Liberal wave that started to swell up towards the end of the election?
Yeah, well, it was huge. We were all tracking the polls, and whatever the real numbers were, it was the trending that encouraged us. But I have to say, we were strong on victory before that surge started happening. And when it did start happening, then I think we realized that we could be in for a very special night tonight. And so I think the numbers, although they're not final, are showing thousands of votes difference from the 21 to 6,000 that it was in 2011 to almost reverse. So that's a really impressive outcome. And it's a combination of great volunteers, a candidate who is known to, and I had name recognition obviously as the mayor, and a great run by Justin Trudeau. So it took everything.
To what extent were the boundary changes to this riding a factor in your victory?
I don't think they were that much of a factor, because when I won the mayor, I won 12 of 15 wards. And one of my strongest was Ward 4. And Ward 4 is Hamilton East. It's what the NDP would like to think is their strong area. But I won big there, because I grew up there, and I know people there, and one of my old neighbors still lives on my old street, and things like that. So I was interested to see if my success as a mayor in that area would translate over the NDP success previously, and I think the numbers will show that it has. I think we went very strong in those eastern polls.
Were you confident the whole campaign? Were you confident the whole campaign?
Yes, I was.
How difficult is it to beat a long-serving incumbent like in this case?
How difficult is it for to go against him? Yeah, but I wasn't looking at it that way. I was looking at it as I grew up in a liberal riding. It was traditionally liberal. Things happened, it changed. And so I just felt that, and I said this on the air while I was a broadcaster, before I was a politician, it's not right that the Liberals aren't represented in the city of Hamilton. And so it ends up here tonight in Hamilton Creek, and also in
Hamilton is now going to have two MPs who are in the governing party.
Right.
What kind of difference are we going to notice in Hamilton?
Well, we will notice a lot because of the policies that the parties put forward, especially with infrastructure, with seniors, with fairness. That there should be, because Hamilton's not a high-income city, like say Oakville or some others. So the policies on the tax reduction, there will be more cash floating around in the city of Hamilton. But as well as that, it's the activity that will take place with the infrastructure spending. And that was a bold thing for Justin Trudeau to do, say, the Conservatives got $60 billion on the table, we'll double it. And that sounded far-fetched at the time, but it's actually the right thing to do.
What's the first U.S. Steel-related thing you're going to do?
Gather with our people in fair to the pensioners and the people who are in crisis right now to understand, first of all, just what happened, and then secondly, to find out what remedies, what measures we can take to mitigate some of the hardship that's been created.
What's your number one priority overall for Hamilton?
Was that?
What's your number one priority for Hamilton?
Well, for Hamilton, we're back on the electoral map now. My number one priority is to talk with the mayor and councilors about the infrastructure situation, because two things have to happen. There has to be, in this kind of an infrastructure policy, there has to be immediate need, and there has to be an economic merit that will show clear results. And so we have to get right at things like Burlington Street is my best example that I've used so often. It's an important thoroughfare and it's falling apart in many cases. So we'll have to work with the city and with the province to determine the priorities. So what I say will be the first thing may not be quite what the council has in mind, but we'll certainly work with them.
Where does the implementation of the LRT fall on your priority list in terms of that coming down the...
Well, I'm not going to talk about the LRT tonight.
Yeah.
Where's your campaign manager? I understand he's only 23 years old.
Jesse Shea. Yeah, he's a young liberal. He got a lot of experience in a short time, and he was just such a tower of strength, and he was my go-to guy on policy, because we had hundreds of pages of documents to go over, and as well, I'm out there knocking on doors and canvassing, so I need a quick answer. Jesse always had the answer at his fingertips, so he's a real policy wonk. Probably will be a great politician someday, but it was fun to have a young person in. It's fun to have Justin in, because I'm an old guy, and we need young blood, young people to be interested in running the country, and I think we've got the beginnings of that in Hamilton East-Stoney Creek. Even though you have an old MP now, I won't be around forever, but we're going to build this party, and young people like Jesse Shea are the future, not only of the party, but of the country.
Is he here?
Yeah, he's here somewhere.
This has traditionally been a strong liberal riding, so how does it feel to bring this riding back to liberal again?
I'm proud of it. I grew up a block away from Vic Cops and Sheila, and John Monroe was a friend, and my mother used to work with a liberal MP by the name of Gus McFarland, long gone, but back in the 50s and early 60s. So the liberals are part of our family and our neighborhood and our growing up, and as I said, I talked publicly about the fact that the absence of a liberal member in Hamilton was really a discouraging thing, and there was talk earlier in this campaign even that maybe the Liberal Party was on the ropes. Well, we're no longer on the ropes, and part of the reason is we have a Liberal MP in Hamilton East-Stoney Creek and one in